All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. If you are um, in real estate for any length of time, you will inevitably come across scenarios where things will get difficult. And we want to chat about what are some of the things you can do to lay a good foundation with your clients in order to overcome these situations. We're going to try to best understand their communication style and how they tend to respond to those situations. Dr. Hall will tell us what the tendencies of people's personality kind of shifts are, and I'm probably butchering the way that he would term that, but such that we can best understand them. And then the sales approach of being the know, like, and trust situation, so that you have a good foundation with your clients, and then ultimately getting out of your own way to become that resident leader. So with that, we'll bring Dr. Hall into the conversation here. Dr. Hall's a business psychologist, executive coach, public speaker, multi-time author, and we affectionately call him the neuro nerd. So, how you doing today, Dr. Hall?
I'm doing quite well. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I always love these conversations and look forward to them. So, yeah, I'm doing very well, thanks.
Thanks
But
for having me.
yeah, absolutely. Let me do just a couple housekeeping things here, real quick. For you, those of you that I haven't met, my name is Jared Lee. I'm the associate broker and team lead here at MHC Realty, also known as My Home Connection. Our sponsor for today is the Perfect Real Estate Business. We've been developing this over the last couple of decades. We've introduced a lot of things over time, but most recently and most beneficially, a relationship with Dr. Hall in regards to offering business coaching, life coaching, mentoring, and training. If you have questions or want to know more about that, you can feel free to reach out. But other than that, I'll bring Dr. Hall back in, and I guess back to what I originally said, and how we're going to outlay the conversation today is, you know, there's things in life that just inevitably become very stressful, and certainly in our industry, in real estate, purchasing things for, homes for a couple hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you've got your move going on, you've got your life going on, and anything else that's interjected in that. And one thing that you've been really helpful in understanding is how people change when they become stressed, when anxiety increases. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, when people get when people get stressed out or anxious or fearful, um, the way the brain works is the logical, rational part of the brain that helps you slow down and evaluate things is impaired. One name to call this is limbic hijacking. And we've all experienced it. Anytime you've been nervous or upset about something, you really can't think. You feel like you've got brain fog. And then after you've calmed down, your brain comes back online. Um, Many people experience this on a nightly basis. They wake up and they start worrying, and they can't get back to sleep because their mind is racing, and they get all amped up and they can't go back to sleep, and they can't ever seem to solve the problem that they woke up and started worrying about. So we become less competent at solving problems when we have too much anxiety, which
So,
is why you hire a consultant, like in your case, why you hire a realtor, because if my prefrontal cortex is offline because I'm freaking out about something, I need somebody who's got a lot of experience with whatever I'm freaking out about, to be my spare prefrontal cortex. And so for realtors, in a high stakes transaction of buying or selling a house, having that other person whose prefrontal cortex is online when the clients is kind of offline because they've fallen in love with the house, and there's a 1% chance that somebody else could swoop in and take it from them, and they start to freak out. They need someone to have that spare prefrontal to help them solve the thinking problems of this transaction.
So the limbic hijacking is the limbic, is that a system? Is that part of the brain?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you for asking me to define my terms. So the limbic system is a bunch of different structures, but they're deep structures in the brain. So they include the thalamus, the hypothalamus, the hippocampus, the amygdala. So it's a set of structures deep in the brain, and those are the sets of structures that activate in order faster than our conscious thought, and it's really a self-protective system. It's a life-preserving system. And so it integrates all of this disparate information that comes from the outside world, integrates it, and then does a threat assessment. Is this something that's going to kill me, or is this something that's safe? And the way human beings are designed, even if it won't kill you, what fear does is it anxiety are the thoughts, worries that are associated with a right now fear. And so the limbic system turns on when it sees a mountain lion or a rattlesnake or something that will kill us. Well, when we worry, it activates about things that won't kill us. It activates all those same systems. And so what used to be, well, and still is useful, if I see a rattlesnake, I'm going to react with fear. And that keeps me alive. When I'm seeing a rattlesnake, I don't need to do math problems. I don't need to do advanced planning. I just need to get out of there, kill it, run away, stand still, flop, faint, whatever. All of those are adaptive at the time, but all that turns off all the rational, logical parts of me. So in the real estate case, if I start worrying that somebody is going to swoop in and outbid me on the house that I've fallen in love with, it activates all those same structures and turns off my reasoning sense. And so part of the job of any outside consultant, and in this case, a realtor, is to help modulate those anxious, fearful thoughts.
I think people see this a lot more, even in day-to-day stuff. If you have a good friend and you come to them and you're just mad, you're upset, you're frustrated, or whatever it is, and you just don't see a way out, and then your good friend says, "Hey, just do this." It's not because they're brilliant. It's because they're not. My analogy, or kind of my visual, is if you're in the trenches, or in a foxhole and you're taking fire, right? Somebody's shooting at you. You're not thinking straight. You can't see that if you go down the trench a little bit, all of a sudden there's no bullets coming over there, but your buddy can see from an overview that there's no bullets over there. So he says, "Go over there." I don't know if that's a good kind of analogy or metaphor, but
no, it's a great analogy because your buddy, there's two things about your buddy. One is that your buddy is not engaged in the same worry that you are and can give you as you say, an overarching perspective to help you see things from a different angle. But the other thing is you trust your buddy, and your buddy is, by his or her tone of voice, soothing you. And it's a crazy, amazing thing that we can change another person's brain activity by our tone of voice. So by talking in a soothing, comforting way, we can actually help somebody's brain come back online.
Love it.
And we call it soothing, and it's what we do with hurt children or our loved ones who are freaking out. And so your buddy comes with a different perspective. You trust them, which we'll talk about later, but also with a soothing tone that calms us down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're going to kind of the second portion of this. So let me just browse over real quick before we get to there, because that's kind of the next topic, is understanding how potentially your clients are going to respond to something, right? You've talked about the flee, the fight, the freeze. mentality. And when the anxiety ratchets up, you may not have any insight, or maybe just a little bit of insight, or how they're going to respond, right? For
Right.
example, that anxiety shoots up and all of a sudden they start swinging, and you're
Yeah.
trying not to be collateral damage here.
Mhm.
Or, hey, where'd they go? They're not responding. They're bailing on you. And in my experience, you have to assess that, identify that as quickly as possible, so that hey, okay, they go away for a little bit, but then they come back down. And what do I need to say in my text or in my voicemails to be that calm, soothing? So I'm just sharing, if you understand, are they talkers on the phone? Are they texters? Do that, because that's their normal MO.
Mhm.
Obviously, don't get ratcheted up with them. That's not helpful.
Right.
Be aware of that kind of inclination, or that bent to become anxious about certain things. And so, anyway, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on that one, because I think it's just important in life to do that.
If we look at the responses to threat, and I'll say them again, and then I'll define how you might see them in your situation. So there's fight, flight, freeze, or faint. Fight, flight, freeze, or faint. So the fight response is if your client is spun up about a transaction. If they go into fight mode, they can start cussing and hollering and being mad, and you're most convenient. Even if you didn't cause the problem, there are
You're
some
there.
people, you're there, and so they'll blow up, and and you're thinking, what? I didn't do anything. It's like I'm the weatherman. I didn't make the weather. I'm just telling you the weather. But I mean, in real life, the weather people, weathermen, weatherwomen, they get death threats. How do you threaten a person who's just telling you what the weather is? Well, that's that fight response. So they just start swinging at anybody who's convenient. The second is flight, and that's the person who the way it plays out in this kind of transaction is if they get freaked out, they'll run away or they'll run off to somebody else. Like, so they'll go, well, this isn't working. I'm going to get a new realtor. And, and so the flight mode is to escape from whatever the situation is. Okay, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work with this house. It's not going to work with this realtor. It's not going to, and so they just run away from everything.
Yeah.
The freeze is a little more complex because what happens, like if I see a rattlesnake and I freeze, what's happening is my brain is trying to take in all the information to assess. So I'm apprehending the danger I'm in. Well, sometimes you'll find people who, when they're freaking out, they start consuming data, and so they'll want to read contracts, and they're they're gonna go to the county records, and they're gonna look at the last 14 years of electric bills for this house, and they start apprehending and they consume all this information. And then faint is the person who just collapses. They don't call you back. They don't text you back. You wonder what happened, and they just kind of disappear on you. And it's not because they went and found a new realtor. It's because they're so overwhelmed, they've got to modulate themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to be aware of that stuff, because you might not have seen any evidence of any of it, and then go, oh, okay, one of those things happened. Now what am I going to
Right.
do?
But they all point back to getting spun up, to having anxiety about the transaction. And each person reacts differently. And some people can self-regulate and other people can't. They need someone else to help them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. And then, so once you've kind of identified, assessed, or at least aware that those things might happen, kind of the cliche in the sales world, and I hate to kind of call real estate the sales world, but for lack of a better term, if
You're selling houses.
What's that?
You're selling houses. It's a transaction. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I got some issue with sales. Anyway, that's another conversation. But if you are aware of that, and in my experience, if you've created a situation where they know, like, and trust you, they're going to more likely come back to you, whether they quit swinging or, get out of their faint mode or whatever it is, because they know that you're their advocate. They know that you have their best interest in mind. They know that you have been a calming voice, that you are going to know the answer. All those things. So that's what I feel is at the core of that know, like, and trust. And they have to know, I think one of the main important things is know that you care about them. Not that you know everything about real estate, but that you have their best interest in mind.
Well, I'll add one to this, and it's related to research that my faculty advisor, my major professor in graduate school, had done as it relates to psychologists. The no part was not part of his thinking and his theory. In my mind, the no part is, do they know you exist? As soon as that's out of the way, then like, respect, and trust come into play. So it's know, like, respect, and trust. Mm-hmm. So the like part is, do you have enough overlap or enough similarity that they find you appealing? And that liking is really a matching thing. Mm-hmm. There's no uniform likability. So people think, well, I'm a super likable person, and let's say you're an extroverted, super likable, bubbly person, and got lots of energy and tell lots of stories, and you've got a really introverted person who's like, I wish this realtor would just shut up. Right. They're not going to like you. So it's about matching the other person. So that's why it's so important that you study people, because it isn't about this cardboard cutout of what a likable person is. It's about the overlap of similarity, finding things that people overlap on. And once you connect on that, that's the like part.
Yeah.
The next one is the respect part. And you don't have to know everything about real estate, but you better know some stuff. Right. And so if they can't respect that you're not more knowledgeable than them in the field, then you're never going to get to trust. And so you have to have some level of expertise in your area. And expertise, or the respect part, is toughest when you're just starting out. So if you've only done 0 transactions, you don't have a lot of expertise. Once you've done hundreds of transactions, then it's easy to point to, hey, I've got all this expertise in this area, and that's why I'm worth respecting. And you can just show evidence of that. The trust part is the most important part. And that's about, does your client believe you have their best interest in mind? Mm-hmm. Now, you can be self-interested because you want to make the sale, but primarily the client needs to know that you have their best interest in mind. Mm-hmm. If they believe that, then they will trust you. If they do not believe that, or they don't believe if you're not competent, they won't trust you. Once you're competent, once you're an expert in the area, then they could trust you if they believe that you have their best interest in mind. You can be the most expert person in the world. If they think you're a lion snake, they'll never trust you.
Yeah, and I would say the inverse of that is true, that a lot of the other things that you just mentioned, if they believe that you have their best interest in mind, kind of that the things that you get along about, like I have some pretty different clients than me right now, but I think I've instilled a high degree of confidence that I have their best interest in mind, so they'll overlook some of that. And yes. Then I've also tried to show them that I have a great knowledge in real estate, certainly more than they have. And even if we don't quite jive on the other things in life, they'll overlook that because they're like, hey, I know you have our best interest in mind. I know you know the industry. So I'm just sharing, you can kind of shift those, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, nobody expects their surgeon to be a scintillating conversationalist, and they don't expect them to be the life of the party. But they really do want to know that they're really good at what they do, and they don't and they want a good outcome.
Love it.
So there's got to be enough overlap, but once you get enough overlap, if they believe that you are expert and they respect you, and that you have their best interest in mind, and you're good enough at what you do that they can put their lives or their money or their house in your hands, then you got a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that sets us up for the kind of the next uh, piece is, how to get out of your own way. And we've talked about, I think there's like two or three different things that I had captured in this. And that is, you know, make sure it's not about you. So get that out of the way because they'll sense that, we call it commission breath and you got to get rid of that. And then, so what is your preference of how this is going to work? And then also what things are bothering you about what's going on, okay, hey, things aren't going well. Things have flared up. And the last thing you want to do is have high anxiety because your anxiety is not going to help their anxiety. And so you quickly need to be elevating yourself past your own mind and your own inclination so that you can be the best version of yourself for them.
Right, right. And what we're learning more and more every year is that our emotions are contagious to the people around us, either through our facial expression. More recently, we're finding out through smell that that we can smell fear in other people. Affects us. Um, um, so as a hired consultant, you have to be self-regulating because whether you know it or not, you're giving off signs, visible signs, olfactory signs that you're nervous, and you will infect your clients with that nervousness. So it really starts with you being mentally disciplined and being self-regulated so that you don't infect your clients with that anxiety.
Well, let's talk about that. What did you just said? You got to be mentally cognizant so that, is that the word you used?
I don't know if that's the word I use, but it works pretty well.
Well, and I want to touch on that a little bit more. So you've talked about metacognition, right? Thinking about your thinking, be aware.
Right.
You have to, and if you are hijacked, if your limbic system is hijacked, you can't bring rational thought, logic into the equation because your brain's shutting down too. So you have to realize this is happening, and it's happening to
Yes.
me. And what happens to me, I can't help them. And
I
we're going
can't
to
help them, and I'll infect them with what's happening to me, and then we've got a half a dozen people who are freaking out, and nothing's going to go well then.
Yeah, so nice segue, thank you, to the next, part of this is if you're going to be, a resonant leader, you have to have all that either under control or getting under control. And it starts
Right.
with you.
So let's define our terms for the people who are watching. What does resonant mean? So when you're on a swing and somebody's pushing you and they push you at the right time, you swing even higher. If you've had a kid, and you've swung them on a swing, you time it just right so that it's smooth and they get more acceleration. That's resonance. You're in sequence with where they are. Dissonant is if your kid comes back and you just grab the swing and stop them. That's a dissonant interaction. And this happens with our emotions as well. Resonant leaders join the people in their emotions. And if they're good emotions, they amplify them. If they're not good emotions, they join them in that emotion and then slow them down. And that's, if you got a kid on a swing that's going too high, you don't stop them right away. You slow them down until they slow down to a safe level. And that's what we have to do with each other's emotions, especially hired consultants, realtors need to figure out how do we help manage the emotions of our clients. So if they're swinging too high, you slow them down. If they're excited, you can be resonant and keep going.
Yeah, and I would say I extend that to your team, right? One of the things we do is we're that hub of the real
Absolutely.
estate, and all of our team members are either going to help in that cause or they're going to potentially hurt in that cause. And if you've partnered yourself with people that get worked up or inclined to be drama queens or, whatever, if you got an inspector, you want a factual, but a calm inspector, like keep a rational brain, like, oh no, I found mold and now the sky's going to stop rotating, versus somebody that's actually seen this a lot and it was easily and quickly remediated. And they're just like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah, everything is figure outable. If somebody thinks this is a disaster, that's probably not a person who you really want on your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we covered a lot of ground, and I love all of that. And we've kind of stepped up into the higher level mental state of things, meaning we're stacking things on top of what we're doing, right? We've talked about contending with our thoughts, our emotions, and we've talked about being empathetic to our clients, and now we're trying to figure things out and be that resonant leader to bring things back under control. Not if, but when something, right? There's always that snag. It might be a little snag, or it might be a big snag.
Right.
And I'd like everybody'd like to think that they make perfect transactions, but
they don't. Those exist in somebody's head.
Yeah.
They don't exist in reality. There's always a speed bump, and if it's a speed bump, you figure out a way around it. If it's and you've seen this at some point, you go, this dog won't hunt, this deal won't fly, let's just walk away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And one thing else I've learned too that I think is super important for people to know is when you solve a problem and you solve it in a way that just is so impressive to your client, they're like, that seemed like a really big deal, and they made it not be a big deal and they made it go away. You're that problem solver, right? And we've had episodes about people that make a lot of money know how to solve problems. And it's not just fixing the issue, it's addressing it and containing it and not letting it be a bigger issue than what it needed to be.
Right.
So anyway, I'm getting on a rant here, and
that's okay. It's good stuff. That's why people hire experts. Is they're better because they've got more experience, they're better at solving problems than we are. Why do we watch professional sports? Because those athletes can solve problems that we can't solve, and we enjoy watching them solve those physical problems. And anytime you watch somebody who's an expert at anything, it's a joy to watch an expert. One of my things is watching people mud drywall, because I've tried it and it's so hard and I'm so bad at it. So when I see someone who's good at it, I watch them, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch because they're so good at it.
Yeah. Well, the one last thing that I'll mention, and you said it earlier, and I wanted to kind of revisit it again, but I think it's important to know for people that are new to the industry, if they feel discouraged because they don't have that expertise, that's the beauty of being on a good team or having a good coach is you can say, I don't know, I think I know the answer, or I don't know the answer, but I know my team lead will, my coach will, or whatever. Because if you're on that island, and even if you know some of these techniques, but you don't know the answer, you better get the answer quickly and somewhat in line with how big the problem is.
Right. And so part of earning respect is knowing your limits and saying, hey, this is a new one for me, but I can find the answer.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, yeah, I've seen this a million times, and you're just lying through your teeth. You've never seen it before. But if you know how to find the answer, then you can still be of tremendous service to your client.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as good as knowing the answer. And certainly if it's not 100%, it's better than saying, admitting I'm 90, 95% sure rather than I'm 100% and being off by that 5, because then you just shot yourself in the foot.
Right.
So anyway, well, let's make sure, folks, right at the half an hour, man, we're figuring this out, Roger, Dr. Hall, excuse me.
No, Roger's good.
So let's make sure folks know how to get a hold of you. Why don't you share the info on your website?
Yeah, you can reach me through my website at drdrrogerhall.com. And on it, you can get access to my books. I got a new book coming out, DIY Leader Brain, which is the follow-up to my most recent book, DIY Brain, Staying Happy, Being Productive, and then my leadership guidebook called Expedition. We just launched the online course Freak Out, which if you want to learn how to manage your anxiety and not freak out, the subtitle is Fear Less, Live More. So how can you live without freaking out so much? That course is there.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in just a half an hour, but so it's a lot to consume. For those folks that want to, have these conversations, want to take the Expedition course, take advantage of coaching and mentoring, certainly feel free to reach out to us. We do these podcasts in order to share all the knowledge that Dr. Hall has, and try to couple that with our experience in the real estate industry, so that we can, personalize help you personalize a real estate business that's going to help you not only survive but thrive. So all really good stuff. So, but
Fantastic.
Other than that, thanks again, Dr. Hall. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, Jared. Grateful to be here today with you.
Awesome. All right. Other than that, guys, we'll just wish everybody a blessed one. Thanks.
Bye.